The jungle was silent, almost too silent for comfort. The tall trees bent under the strange violet sky, and the air smelled heavy with iron. Ethan, the human explorer, moved carefully through the alien terrain. His boots crushed the damp moss. Beneath his feet, and each step made a faint, squelching sound. He was alone, or at least thought he was. He had been sent on a mission no one else dared to accept. Cover an ancient artifact hidden deep inside the forbidden caves of Vathra. The locals whispered stories about these caves, how no alien had ever returned from them alive. The reason was always the same: the sealed orifice. The orifice was not just a simple door. It was alive, or at least it seemed alive. Covered in strange patterns, breathing slowly like a sleeping beast, it had remained shut for centuries. Entire tribes of aliens had tried to open it. Strong warriors, wise shamans, even desperate rulers had sent armies, but the orifice refused all. Claw, no fire, no weapon could break through. The legend said it was sealed by the ancestors themselves, a test that no one of their kind could pass. But now, one human stood before it. Ethan entered the cave, his flashlight cutting through the shadows. The air inside was colder, damp, and full of whispers. His chest tightened as he heard a sound like something shifting behind the walls. He pressed forward, his hand brushing against the carved symbols that glowed faintly at his touch. The stone pulsed like a heartbeat, and then he saw her, a girl alien, fragile, yet strangely beautiful, sat near the orifice. She looked exhausted, her silver skin shimmering faintly in the dim light. Her large eyes widened when she noticed the human. For a moment, fear filled her face, but then hope sparked. "You, human." Her voice trembled.
Ow.
No one else came. No one else dared. "Please, you must try." Ethan frowned. "Try what?" She raised a shaking hand toward the massive sealed orifice. The surface was smooth, yet it looked as though something beneath was pressing outward. It's desperate to breathe. "The orifice rejects us," she whispered. "Our kind cannot open it." "But the old stories? They say a stranger, one not of our blood, can break the seal. Without it, my people will die." Ethan stepped closer, studying the surface. It wasn't like any technology he knew. It wasn't metal, wasn't stone, wasn't wood. It was something in between, organic and unnatural at the same time. Placed his palm against it, and immediately felt resistance. It was tight, almost painfully tight, as though it refused him to. The girl winced. "It will hurt. It will fight back. But you must not give up. Only human hands can do what ours cannot." The orifice pulsed under his touch. It was sealed shut, locked by something deeper than mechanics. He pressed harder, his muscles straining, sweat dripping down his forehead. It did not budge. For a moment he thought the legends were just lies, but then something strange happened. The orifice responded. A faint glow spread from beneath his hand, crawling across the surface like veins of fire. The girl gasped, her eyes wide with disbelief. It's working. You're the one." Ethan's hand trembled as the resistance grew sharper. It wasn't just physical, it felt alive, pushing against him with willpower, like it wanted to test his resolve. His chest ached as if something inside him was being pulled away. Still, he pressed forward, his jaw tight. The girl staggered closer, her voice breaking. "If you stop, it will close forever. Please, keep pushing." The cave trembled. Dust fell from the ceiling. The ground beneath his boots cracked. The orifice tightened, sealed harder, as though furious that a human dared to challenge it. But Ethan leaned forward, using every ounce of strength. His heartbeat pounded in his ears. His hand burned as the glow intensified, brighter and brighter, until the entire chamber was filled with light. The alien girl shielded her eyes, but tears streamed down her cheeks. "You don't understand. For centuries, we waited. For this moment," Ethan roared, shoving one last time, and suddenly something gave way. The orifice cracked open slightly, releasing a gust of cold air that swept through the cave like a scream. And then silence. Ethan stumbled back, gasping, his palm glowing faintly from the contact. The orifice wasn't fully open, but a slit had formed a proof that it could be breached. The girl dropped to her knees, overwhelmed. You really are the one," she whispered. "The human who can break the seal. Our fate lies in you." But as Ethan looked into the narrow gap, he saw movement, something shifting in the darkness beyond. Not treasure, not salvation. Something alive, something waiting. The orifice had not just been sealed to keep people out. It had been sealed to keep something in. And now, thanks to him, it was waking. The slit in the sealed orifice glowed faintly, like a wounded beast bleeding light. The cave shook with low rumbles, and the air turned heavy, pressing against Ethan's chest as if the cave itself wanted him gone. The alien girl clutched his arm, her voice trembling. "You should step back, human. If it wakes fully before the seal is broken, we may not survive." Ethan's brows furrowed. He pulled his arm free gently and stared into the gap. There was no mistaking it. Something inside was alive. He could see the faint outlines of movement, shapes twisting in unnatural patterns. "What exactly is behind this?" he asked firmly. The girl hesitated, her silver eyes flickering with fear and shame. "It is said, an ancient guardian was locked inside. Our ancestors feared its power. They sealed it away, hoping no one would ever open the orifice. But when the famine struck my people, our elders turned desperate. They believed what was hidden inside could save us. That's why they sent me here to find the human of prophecy." Her words hung in the air. Ethan felt a chill crawl down his spine. It was clear she was not telling him everything. The glow from the orifice suddenly pulsed, a wave of energy forcing both of them to stumble backward. The walls shivered as cracks spread across the stone. Something was calling, pulling Ethan's very blood toward the seal. He gritted his teeth. "Prophecy or not, I'm not here to release something that could kill us all." The girl shook her head quickly, her voice breaking. "No, you don't understand. Whatever is inside. It is dangerous, yes, but it is also the only thing that can bring life back to our dying lands. Without it, my people will wither. Children already starve. Our rivers run dry. We have no choice." Her desperation struck him harder than the shaking cave. He remembered Earth's own history, how humans once fought wars over water, over bread, over survival. He couldn't ignore her plea. Still, unease nodded him. The legends always hid truths behind riddles. Something sealed for centuries was rarely a blessing. Ethan stepped forward again, placing both palms against the slit. The surface felt like living muscle, warm and trembling beneath his touch. It resisted him once more, but weaker now, as if testing his determination. The girl whispered behind him, chanting in her alien tongue. Her voice echoed strangely, intertwining with the pulse of the orifice. The glow shifted color, no longer white, but deep crimson. Suddenly, Ethan felt a sharp stab in his chest. He staggered, clutching himself, gasping for air. The orifice wasn't just resisting him, it was drawing something out of him. Its life force, his very energy. The girl gasped, running to his side. "No, not so fast. You must balance it. If you give too much, it will consume you." Ethan forced himself upright, sweat dripping down his face. "You could have mentioned that before." Her expression darkened with guilt. "I didn't know it would react so violently. I only heard the stories. Please, hold on." The ground beneath them cracked wider. A foul, ancient wind seeped from the slit. Ethan's flashlight flickered, then died, plunging the chamber into darkness, lit only by the pulsing glow of the orifice. From inside the gap, a sound emerged. A slow, deep breath. Then another. Ethan froze. "It's alive." The girl's eyes widened in terror. "No, it shouldn't be awake yet. You've stirred it too quickly." The glowing slit widened slightly more, and a shape pressed against it, a massive claw. Long and skeletal, scraping against the inside of the seal. Sparks of light showered from the contact. Ethan instinctively drew the small plasma blade at his side. "That's your savior?" Her voice cracked. "It is the Guardian. It was meant to protect us long ago, but it turned violent. That's why they sealed it." But legends say a human touch can bend it, force it into submission. He shot her a look. So you want me to tame a monster? Before she could answer, the claw slammed against the slit, forcing it wider. The sound was deafening, the shockwave knocking both of them off their feet. The cave ceiling cracked, rocks tumbling down around them. Ethan scrambled up, pulling the girl with him. The glow now painted the walls in streaks of blood red. Through the widening gap, he saw more of it gleaming fangs, eyes like burning coals, and a body covered in scales that shimmered with unnatural energy. The girl fell to her knees, whispering prayers. Her voice trembled with both reverence and fear. Please don't fail us, human. Now, if you can't control it, we all die. Ethan's grip tightened on his blade. His heart pounded, but his mind sharpened. He had no choice. He had come this far, and now the fate of not only this alien girl but her entire people rested on his shoulders. Taking a deep breath, he stepped forward again, ignoring the claw that threatened to burst free. He pressed his hand harder into the seal, pouring his willpower, his stubborn human defiance, into the orifice. For a heartbeat, the guardian inside froze. The glow shifted again from crimson back to blinding white. The girl gasped. It's listening to you, she whispered. It recognizes you. But Ethan wasn't so sure. Because deep inside his mind, he felt something else, a voice. Not his own. It's a cold and powerful human. You dare touch my prison? Do you seek to free me, or be consumed? The words weren't spoken aloud. They slithered directly into his mind, heavy as chains. Ethan clenched his jaw, sweat stinging. His eyes? I'm not here to be consumed. If I free you, you obey, you don't destroy. The voice rumbled with amusement, echoing like thunder. Obey, we shall see. Push harder, little human. Show me if your kind is worthy. The cave shook violently, the slit widening more. Ethan groaned, his arms trembling as though the weight of the entire planet pressed against him. The girl screamed his name, begging him not to die, and then silence again. The orifice pulsed once, twice, and stopped resisting. The glow dimmed to a steady white. The claw slowly withdrew back into the darkness, but the burning eyes still stared. Through the narrow slit fixed directly on Ethan, watching, waiting, the girl collapsed, sobbing in relief. You stopped it from breaking free. No one else ever managed that. Maybe you really can control it. Ethan stood frozen, his chest heaving, his hand still pressed to the seal. The voice lingered in his mind like poison. He hadn't defeated the guardian. He hadn't freed it. He'd only woken it, and now knew his name. The silence that followed was worse than the noise. Ethan stood with his palm still resting on the glowing orifice, sweat dripping down his temple. The guardian's voice had faded, but it left a chill deep in his bones, as if the words were carved into his very blood. The alien girl sat hunched against the wall, trembling, her silver hair sticking to her damp face. She dared not speak at first, her wide eyes fixed on Ethan as though he had become something different, something more than human. Finally, she whispered, "It knows you now." The guardian. It never spoke to us, but it spoke to you. That means, indeed. Pulled his hand away, flexing his fingers. His palm still glowed faintly, faint lines like runes burned into his skin. He clenched his fists to hide them. That means I'm in more trouble than I thought. The girl shook her head quickly. You don't understand. Prophecy said only a human could face the guardian. But if it spoke to you, if it marked you, then you are bound to it. It cannot kill you not unless you allow it. You are the key. Ethan didn't like the sound of that. He wasn't anyone's key. Came here for exploration, maybe to bring back something useful, but not to become a jailer for some ancient monster. Before he could argue, the ground beneath them shuddered again. From inside the slit came a low growl so deep it felt like thunder inside his chest. Dust rained from the ceiling, and the walls began to hum as though the cave itself was alive. The girl grabbed his sleeve. It's testing you. It wants to know how strong you are. If you fail, it will break free on its own. Ethan's eyes narrowed. He had faced storms on alien seas, predators that stalked entire planets, and even the cold vacuum of space. But this was different. This wasn't just survival. This was a challenge. A sudden flash of light burst from the slit, blinding them both. Ethan shielded his eyes. When the light faded, the air was no longer empty. Shapes began forming inside the cave's spectral illusions, glowing figures that circled them like predators. The girl gasped, her voice filled with dread. Trial phantoms. The Guardian is summoning them. They're fragments of its will. Touch you. They will burn your soul. Ethan tightened his grip on his plasma blade, of course, because fighting monsters the size of mountains wasn't bad enough. The first phantom lunged. It looked like a beast made of smoke, claws stretched out, glowing eyes fixed on him. Ethan swung his blade, slicing through it. But instead of vanishing, the phantom screamed and split into two smaller forms. The girl cried out, "You can't fight them like that. They multiply with violence. You must resist them differently, Sho." Control, not rage. Ethan grimaced. Control. That wasn't his style, but he didn't have time to argue. The phantoms swirled closer, their shapes twisting into grotesque mockeries of alien warriors. Their mouths opening with shrieks that rattled his skull. One lunged straight for his chest. Instead of slashing, Ethan planted his feet and held his ground, pushing his palm forward. The glowing mark on his hand flared. The phantom froze, hissed, and then dissolved into mist. His heart pounded. That wasn't the blade, it was the mark. Guardian had left him a weapon, or maybe a curse. The other phantoms hesitated, circling him, their shapes shifting in uncertainty. The girl's voice rose in awe. It listens to your will. Can command them. Ethan forced himself to stand taller, ignoring his shaking limbs. Then let's see if they listen. He raised his marked hand and shouted with all his strength, "Enough." The glow flared brighter, filling the chamber. With white light, the phantoms shrieked, their bodies unraveling like torn fabric, until the cave was empty once again. The only sound left was Ethan's heavy breathing and the faint, steady hum of the orifice. The girl fell to her knees, overwhelmed. No one in our history has ever passed the trial of phantoms. They always failed, consumed in minutes. But you commanded them. Ethan dropped his blade back to his belt, still catching his breath. I didn't command them. I survived them. Big difference. But even as he said it, he knew she was right. Something inside him had changed. The mark burned faintly on his skin, like a tether pulling him closer to the Guardian's will. And then the voice returned. Not bad, little human. You have courage, you have will. But strength alone is not enough. Will you free me, or will you bind me forever? The words clawed into his skull, forcing him to grit his teeth. He didn't answer, not yet. He glanced at the alien girl, who stared at him with desperate hope. She believed he was their savior. But the question twisting inside his mind was darker. Was freeing the Guardian truly salvation, or disaster? The girl placed her hand on his arm, her voice steady, despite the fear in her eyes. You cannot stop now. The seal is weakened. Soon the orifice will demand a final test. If you succeed, the Guardian will either obey you, or destroy us all. Ethan looked back at the glowing slit. The burning eyes inside were still watching, patient and hungry. He could almost feel its smile inside his skull. He exhaled slowly, gripping the hilt of his blade. Then I guess we'd better be ready for whatever comes next. But in the shadows of the cave, something else stirred, something neither the girl nor Ethan had noticed. Thin cracks were spreading through the walls, not just near the orifice, but across the entire cavern, as if the seal was breaking in places unseen. And in the distance, deep beyond the stone, something ancient began to move. Not just the Guardian. Something worse. The cave groaned like an old beast in pain. Ethan and the alien girl stood frozen as thin cracks spread along the cavern walls. They weren't just near the orifice anymore. They were everywhere, glowing faintly like veins of fire running through. The stone, the girl clutched her chest, her eyes wide with fear. This is wrong. Guardian was supposed to test you. But these cracks, they mean something else is awakening, something that was never part of the prophecy. Ethan frowned. stepping forward. Slit in the orifice still pulsed faintly, and the burning eyes within remained locked on him. The Guardian hadn't moved since the trial ended, but he could feel its presence like a weight on his mind. You feel it too. The voice slithered in his head. The seal does not hold me alone. Foolish mortals thought they could bury more than one beast in this place. If you break the orifice completely, you will release us all. Ethan's heart sank. Us all, he muttered aloud. The girl flinched at his tone. What did it say to you? He turned toward her, his expression grim. Your ancestors didn't just trap one thing here. They trapped more. And if we keep pushing this seal open, we might be freeing more than just your guardian. Her face paled. She stumbled backward, shaking her head. No, that cannot be true. The legends, the elders, they only spoke of one. The cave answered for her. The cracks on the far side of the chamber, a low hissing sound emerged. Cold. Air swept out, carrying the stench of decay. Something was moving in the stone, something that had been sleeping far too long. Ethan drew his blade, his eyes sharp. Then the legends lied. The girl grabbed his wrist desperately. No, I cannot fight what comes from there. Back. If the Guardian wakes fully, maybe it can fight back. We need it. Her words cut through him. The very creature she feared, the one sealed away to save her people, was now her only hope against something worse. It was a cruel irony. Before Ethan could respond, the wall split open with a deafening crack. A massive insect-like limb punched through, claws dripping with black ooze. The creature that forced its way out was no phantom. It was solid, real, and monstrous. Its body twisted like a centipede fused with a shadow, its eyes glowing with green fire. The girl screamed, stumbling back. That is no guardian. That is a devourer. Ethan gritted his teeth. Of course it is. Devourer lunged, its claws crashing against the stone floor, sending shockwaves through the cavern. Ethan barely managed to pull the girl aside as the monster's strike shattered the spot they stood on. The orifice glowed brighter in response, pulsing violently. The guardian inside stirred, its burning eyes flaring with rage. For the first time, Ethan felt its emotions clearly. It hated the devourer. The voice returned in his skull, booming with fury. Release me, human. Let me destroy it. Alone, you will die. Ethan raised his blade, standing between the devourer and the trembling girl. His chest heaved, his mind racing. He couldn't trust the guardian, but he couldn't fight this thing alone either. The devourer screeched, its segmented body writhing, its many legs scraping against the stone. It lunged again, jaws snapping. Ethan swung his blade, slicing across its face. Black ichor splattered, sizzling on the floor like acid. The girl cried out, Your weapon cannot kill it. Only fire from the old world can burn it away. Please. You must let the guardian out. Ethan's arms shook from the force of blocking the devourer's strike. The mark on his hand burned hotter, responding to the orifice's pulsing light. He realized he was connected to both creatures, now one behind the seal, one breaking free. Both pulling at him, demanding his choice. The devourer struck again, this time smashing into his chest and sending him flying against the wall. Pain ripped through his body, and the blade clattered out of his hand. He gasped, struggling to rise. A similar assignment with Unsealed SLM Zalman Celes episode is episode wise at home wise SSWise less Cutting her off, pinned against the stone, Ethan felt the Guardian's voice surge in his skull, louder than ever. Say the word, human. Open the seal. Give me freedom, and I will crush it for you. Ethan's vision blurred. The Devourer's claws scraped closer, dripping black venom. The girl was screaming his name, but her voice sounded distant. He stared. At the glowing slit, the Guardian's burning eyes locked on him with predatory hunger. For one terrible moment, he realized the truth. Whether he freed the Guardian or not, both beasts would shape his fate. One offered protection at the price of control. The other promised only death. His hand rose on its own, glowing faintly as the mark burned hotter. The orifice shuddered, sensing his decision. The girl's voice pierced through the chaos. Ethan, don't give it everything. If you release it without balance, it will consume you too. Her words cut through the fog in his mind. He clenched his teeth, forcing himself to focus. He didn't have to give in completely. Maybe there was another way. He slammed his glowing palm against the seal butt not to open it fully. Instead, he forced his will through the mark, commanding it, bending it. The Guardian roared inside his skull, furious but surprised. The slit widened just enough for a massive, scaled hand to push through only one. The Guardian's claw slammed into the Devourer with bone-shattering force, hurling it across the cavern. The creature screeched, crashing into the far wall. The girl gasped. In shock, you? You didn't free it, you chained it halfway. Ethan staggered to his feet, his chest heaving. His voice was raw, but steady. I'm not anyone's key, not its prisoner, not its master. If it wants out, it does it on my terms. The Guardian's burning eyes blazed furiously, its voice thundering in his mind. Clever human. You will not hold me forever. This is only the beginning. The Devourer screeched again, dragging itself up, eye-cord dripping from its wounds. The Guardian's arm flexed, ready for another strike. Ethan tightened his grip on the girl's arm and pulled her closer. The battle had only just begun, and the seal was breaking faster than he could control. The cavern shook violently as two ancient forces collided. The Guardian's massive scaled arm, forced halfway through the slit, slammed into the Devourer again. The impact cracked the stone floor, sending shards flying. The Devourer shrieked. In pain, its body twisting like a serpent. Ichor splattering the walls, Ethan pulled the alien girl back against a pillar, shielding her from falling debris. His chest burned with every breath, but his eyes stayed fixed on the chaos before him. He could feel both creatures inside his head, the Guardian's roar of fury and the Devourer's hiss of hunger. Their voices clashed like blades, scraping at his sanity. The girl's trembling hand clutched his arm. Cannot keep them both. The Guardian will not stay chained forever, and the Devourer grows stronger with every second. You must choose. Human. Ethan shook his head stubbornly. Not yet. If I choose wrong, we're both dead end. Maybe your whole world with us. The Guardian's claw flexed, gripping the Devourer's throat and slamming it against the cavern wall. Oh, dust. Rock rained down. The slit in the orifice widened slightly, glowing brighter as if feeding on Ethan's burning palm. The voice thundered in his skull, more demanding than ever. Release me fully. Cannot fight a Devourer without me. I will tear it apart in moments, but I need more your will, your blood, your strength. Ethan grit his teeth, pressing harder against the seal, but not enough to open it completely. He wasn't ready to hand over his life. You get one arm. That's it. If you want more, you earn it. The Guardian roared in rage, but its claw tightened around the Devourer's head, crushing bone with a sickening crack. For a moment, Ethan thought it was over, but the Devourer did not die. Instead, its body split open down the middle, releasing a swarm of smaller insect-like creatures. They poured across the ground in waves, clicking jaws and glowing green eyes swarming toward Ethan and the girl. The girl screamed. The Devourer multiplies. Kill one body, and it births 100 more. Ethan raised his blade, slashing it. The first wave. Sparks flew as plasma cut through their limbs, but for every one he destroyed, more crawled from the shadows. They hissed and leapt at him, claws raking his arms. Da-da! His blade flashed again, cutting them down, but his strength was fading fast. The Guardian's voice hissed in his mind. You cannot fight them all. Give me more of the seal now. Ethan's heart raced. He was caught between two deaths, devoured by swarms, or consumed by the Guardian's hunger. His body screamed in pain as claws tore across his armor, but he refused to let go of his control. Instead, tried something new. He pressed his glowing palm not deeper into the seal but outward toward the swarming creatures. The mark burned hotter, flooding his arm with light. The swarm froze mid-charge, their bodies twitching as if caught between two masters. The girl gasped in shock. You're bending them? He faltered, through clenched teeth. Not bending, holding. Swarm hissed, their bodies trembling violently, as though something inside them was tearing apart. Then, with a scream that rattled the cavern, half of the swarm dissolved into dust, their bodies collapsing like brittle shells. The rest screeched and retreated toward the devourer's writhing main body. Ethan fell to his knees, his chest heaving. His vision blurred, but the mark on his palm still glowed. He realized he hadn't just held them back, he had stolen something from them. Energy, willpower, maybe even life itself. The Guardian's voice whispered now, no longer shouting, impressive human, you take their strength. As I would. You are learning. Perhaps you are not just a jailer. Perhaps you are kin. The words chilled Ethan more than the battle itself. He wasn't kin to this monster. He couldn't be. But the power in his veins, the way the swarm had bowed to his command, it was proof that the Guardian's mark was changing him. The girl knelt beside him, panic on her face. You cannot keep doing this. The mark will consume you. Look at your eyes. Ethan blinked. His reflection in her wide silver eyes made his stomach drop. His pupils glowed faintly, like the Guardian's burning coals. He staggered up, shaking his head. No, I'm still me. But was he? The devourer roared, its massive body slamming into the Guardian's claw again. Chunks of stone crashed down as the cavern roof began to collapse. The girl screamed as boulders tumbled dangerously close. Ethan grabbed her arm, dragging her toward a safer ledge. Move. This place won't hold much longer. The Guardian's claw swiped again, ripping half the devourer's body apart. More ichor flooded the ground, burning holes into the stone. The swarm hissed and gathered again, preparing another. Charge! Ethan raised his glowing palm, ready to push them back again, but this time, nothing happened. The mark flickered weakly as if drained. His strength was gone. The Guardian's voice thundered once more, mocking yet tempting. You see, now, alone, you are nothing. But with me fully unbound, we can crush them all. Free me, human. Give me everything, and I will save you. The girl clutched Ethan's arm, tears streaming down her cheeks. Don't listen. Give it everything, you will lose yourself. You will not be human anymore. The cavern quaked violently, the devourer's body reforming, its swarm gathering in numbers too great to count. The Guardian's claw trembled, still chained halfway. Desperate for freedom, Ethan stood between them, both one path leading to death, the other two becoming something he feared even more. His jaw tightened as he raised his palm again, fire burning. Inside him, no, he whispered. I won't be your slave, won't be your victim. I'll find another way. The Guardian roared in fury, the devourer shrieked in hunger, and the cavern began to collapse around them. And in that chaos, Ethan made a choice neither beast expected. He stepped forward not to open the seal and not to flee, but to force both powers into his mark at once. The girl gasped in horror. Ethan, no, your body can't hold them both. His body trembled, his veins burned, his mind screamed. But for the first time, both monsters faltered, confused. They had been fighting for dominance, never expecting a human to chain them. Both inside his will, the cavern fell into silence. The devourer hissed weakly. The Guardian's burning eyes narrowed, and Ethan's own eyes glowed brighter than either. The cavern was no longer quiet, pulsed with an unnatural rhythm. as though the stone itself had become a living heart. Ethan stood in the center, chest heaving, his glowing palms stretched outward. His veins burned with fire. Both the Guardian and the Devourer had been chained inside his will, their powers forced into his fragile human body. The alien girl stared at him in shock. You shouldn't be alive." No one could survive holding both. Ethan's lips curled into a tired, bitter smile. Guess humans never got the memo. But inside, he was barely holding on. His body screamed with agony. His heart pounded as if it would tear apart. Every muscle in his frame trembled. His eyes burned with unnatural light. He could hear both voices in his skull. The Guardian's growl and the Devourer's hiss battling each other even as he forced them down. The Guardian's voice rumbled first. "You are strong, human. Stronger than any I have seen. But your strength will not last. Sooner or later, your flesh will burn away, and you will be nothing but a vessel for me." The Devourer hissed, its voice like poison in his veins. "No, I will take him. His body breaks already, will be mine, and through him I will feast." Ethan groaned, clutching his head. Their words cut into him, fighting for dominance inside his mind. He fell to one knee, sweat pouring down his face. The girl rushed forward, kneeling beside him. "Ethan, stop. You're killing yourself. You can't control both forever. You must release one." He looked at her, his eyes glowing faintly like twin flames. "If I let one go, it will destroy everything. If I let both go, it'll be worse. So tell me, what choice do I have?" Her lips trembled, tears falling freely. The prophecy. It never said what would happen if a human held both. Maybe you were more than the prophecy itself. Another quake shook the cavern. The cracks spread wider, the roof groaning as stone chunks rained down. Ethan forced himself to his feet again, pulling the girl with him. His palm glowed brighter now, the mark pulsing like a living star. Then something terrifying happened. The cavern walls began to whisper, not in words, but in 1,000 overlapping voices, alien and ancient. They called Ethan's name, not his human name, but something else, title, a sound that was older than language. The girl's face went pale. "They're calling you Warden, the Warden of the Seal." Ethan's stomach turned cold. He hadn't chosen this. But the mark burned hotter, spreading its light through his veins. He realized with dread what it meant. The seal wasn't just breaking, it was rewriting itself. And he was becoming its replacement. The Guardian growled in his mind, furious. "No, I will not be chained again. Not by stone, not by you." The Devourer screeched, "I will not bow, not to a human." Ethan clenched his teeth, his body trembling as he forced them both down with every shred of his willpower. "You don't get a choice. Neither of you." His voice echoed unnaturally, carrying weight beyond human strength.
"Oh."
The girl flinched, hearing not just Ethan's tone, but the force of something greater. For a brief moment, both monsters faltered, their power bending under his command. Ethan realized he could truly bind them. Not release, not destroy, but lock them within himself. He would become the seal, the living prison. But the cost was his humanity. The girl seemed to sense it too. She grabbed his hand, her eyes pleading. "If you do this, you'll never be free again. You won't be you anymore. Don't throw yourself away for my people." Ethan looked at her, Hurley looked at her, the fear, the hope, the desperation in her eyes. He thought of the starving children she spoke of the rivers that had run dry, of a world waiting for salvation. His jaw tightened. If being human means letting others die when I can stop it, then maybe I can't afford to be human anymore. He pressed both hands against the glowing slit. The light flared brighter than ever, swallowing the chamber in blinding radiance. His veins lit up like molten fire, every nerve screaming as the Guardian and Devourer howled inside him, thrashing violently. The girl screamed his name, clutching his arm as though her grip alone could anchor him. But Ethan didn't let go. He poured his entire soul into the seal, forcing both beasts down, chaining them within himself. The cavern roared like a storm. The walls cracked, but instead of collapsing, they reshaped veins of light spreading outward, knitting the stone. Back together. The swarm of devourer spawns screeched as they dissolved into ash, their link severed. Finally, the light dimmed. Ethan collapsed onto the floor, gasping for air. The glow in his veins flickered, then steadied into faint lines across his skin, like scars of fire. His eyes no longer burned with the Guardian's flame, but they held a strange, otherworldly glow that would never fade. The girl knelt beside him, tears falling. You did it. The cavern is sealed. The devourer is gone. The Guardian is bound. But, Ethan, what are you now? Ethan sat up slowly, his face pale but his voice steady. I don't know. But I know one thing. I'm not just a man anymore. The silence of the cavern was heavy. No more growls. No more hisses. Only Ethan's ragged breaths and the girl's quiet sobs. But deep in his mind, the voices whispered still, faint. Waiting, the Guardian growled with cold amusement. You think you've won, human, but chains wear down. So one day you will break, and when you do, I will be free. The devourer hissed faintly. Yes, he will break. All vessels do. Ethan ignored them, for now, pulled himself up, extending a hand to the girl. She hesitated, then took it, her silver eyes filled with awe and fear. She whispered, You've become the warden. My people will see you as a savior. But will you see yourself as one? What? Ethan stared at the sealed orifice, now glowing faintly like a beating heart. His palm throbbed with the mark. He didn't answer, because he wasn't sure of the truth anymore. The cavern was quiet again, but the silence carried a weight heavier than before. Ethan stood with his palm pressed against the faintly glowing seal. His veins still burned faintly with the power he had chained inside himself. The mark on his hand pulsed like a second heartbeat, reminding him every breath that he was no longer fully human. The alien girl sat nearby, hugging her knees, staring at him with wide, uncertain eyes. For the first time since their meeting, she wasn't speaking. She wasn't begging. She wasn't even crying. She simply looked at him as though trying to understand what he had become. Finally, her voice broke the silence, soft and trembling. Are you still Ethan? He turned toward her slowly. His eyes glowed faintly in the dim light, no longer purely human. He didn't answer right away. Words felt heavier now, like even speaking gave the monsters inside him a chance to listen. At last, he forced a smile, though it was weary. I'm still me. Not the same me anymore. The girl's lips quivered. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to trust that the human who saved her people hadn't been lost inside the prison he had built in his own body. But deep inside, fear lingered. The cavern's ceiling groaned, sealing itself shut with veins of white light. The swarm of cracks faded away until only smooth stone remained. The devourer's corpse dissolved to dust, and the Guardian's burning eyes vanished behind the seal. For now, the world was safe. But Ethan knew the truth. The danger wasn't gone. It lived inside him. The girl slowly stood and stepped closer. She whispered, You are the warden now. That means the seal is you. If you leave, the danger leaves. With you, if you die, the prison dies too. Her words were like knives, but he didn't flinch. He already knew. He had felt it the moment the cavern chose him. He wasn't just a man anymore. He was the chain holding two nightmares in place. He exhaled slowly. Then I'll live as long as I can. I'll fight as long as I breathe. If your people need me, I'll be there. The girl's silver eyes filled with tears. She shook her head. No, Ethan. It's not fair. You should not have to carry this alone. He placed a hand gently on her shoulder. That's the thing about being human. We carry the unfair thing so others don't have to. For a long moment, neither spoke. The cavern hummed faintly, alive but calm. The prophecy had been fulfilled not in the way the girl's people expected, but in the way fate demanded. Finally, Ethan turned toward the sealed orifice. He could feel the Guardian's laughter deep in his chest, the devourer's hunger gnawing at the edges of his mind. They would never stop whispering. Never stop waiting, but he would never stop resisting. He walked toward the exit of the cavern, each step heavy but steady. The girl followed close behind, her hands trembling, but her spirit unwilling to leave him alone. When they emerged into the violet sky, the world outside felt strangely brighter. The jungle's silence had lifted, birds and creatures stirring. Once more, the curse of the cave had been broken, at least for now. At the edge of the cliffs, the girl stopped and turned to face him. My people will see you as a hero. They will bow. They will praise you. But you? What do you want, Ethan? He stared at the horizon, his eyes glowing faintly in the alien sun. For a moment he let the question sink in. Then he shook his head softly. What I want doesn't matter anymore. What matters is keeping the monsters inside me from ever escaping. That's my life now. The girl's throat tightened. She whispered, then I will walk with you. You may be the warden, but you will not be alone. He looked at her, truly looked, and for the first time since the cavern, a small, genuine smile tugged at his lips. Then maybe I can carry this burden after all. They began the long walk back toward her village. Every step was heavy, but every step was a choice to keep moving, to keep resisting, to keep living as both human and prison. Behind them, deep within the cavern, faint whispers stirred once more. The guardian's voice purred with cold amusement. You think yourself strong, little human? But chains rust, flesh weakens. One day you will falter, and when you do, I will walk free again. The devourer hissed, mocking. Yes, one day. Clenched his fist, his glowing veins pulsing faintly, as if answering back, not today. And with that, the warden walked into the future half-human, half-seal, carrying within him the nightmare of two ancient beasts, savior to some, a curse to himself, but above all, still human enough to keep fighting.